Time now for Movies and Money. Our film critic, Erik Childress of the Chicago Film Critics Association, joins us now for a look at what's coming out of the box office this weekend. Hello, Erik.
Hello.
All right, let's start with Ben Hur.
There is a way. Defeat your brother in the arena, and you'll have your vengeance.
Should have stayed away.
You should have killed me.
Well, Ben-Hur, you win 11 Oscars in 1959, and someone almost 6 decades later decides, we didn't quite get it right. Let's redo it for a new crowd.
Why remake a movie, especially this movie?
The old adage is that you remake bad movies. You remake bad movies that have maybe good ideas, maybe have a little bit of recognition to them, and make them better. For example, Pete's Dragon last weekend, which is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful film that I hope people will continue to go see. With Ben-Hur, like I said, you made this movie right.
Is it all about the money then at this point, just to remake a movie?
It seems to be, and I don't know if it's ego or if someone just thought like, hey, Ben-Hur hasn't been remade. They tried remaking Ten Commandments a couple years ago with the Exodus Gods and Kings movie that didn't work out. I don't know who thought this was a really good idea. The reviews are coming in, they're not exactly positive. You know, the chariot race is not exactly something that needed updated special effects in 2016. It worked fantastically in 1959, and I'll still put that scene up against any action scene that comes out today.
You're very hot on Pete's Dragon, but what about this film? It's really intended for families this summer, and it's called Kubo and the Two Strings.
Lord Unbreakable.
It could be a trap.
Allow me.
Well, this is a film from the Leica animation department. They've given us films like Paranorman and Caroline, really fantastic films, a little bit of a darker edge for families. This one, Kubo and the Two Strings, is getting some wonderful notices. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've heard nothing but raves from my colleagues about it. And Leica is, with Paranorman and a film called The Box Trolls a couple years ago, they've released their films in August and September, and they haven't exactly been huge box office hits. The last couple films have done between 50 and 60 million, and Kubo, I think that's probably the range, or probably the ceiling you're probably looking at it. I mean, you still have Pete's Dragon out there. People are still taking their kids to see Secret Life of Pets. That's still doing pretty well. So it seems that we've had an abundance of family films this year, and now kids are back in school as well. So you're only going to be having your weekend numbers. Really, the weekday numbers are going to drop off significantly. So I hope it does well, because we're big fans of what this company is doing, but I don't think you're going to see huge numbers from it.
So it's really a battle at the box office for those last-minute family dollars, it sounds like, for film studios.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just this weekend, between the three films that are opening, it seems like we're in the dog days of summer now, so everyone's going to be sort of fighting over the crumbs of, is there anything interesting that is opening compared to the interesting stuff that is still out in theaters that a lot of people haven't caught up with, like Pete's Dragon, like Sausage Party, and maybe a couple others.
What do you think about this film, WARDOGS?
Hey, seriously, is this safe, driving to Baghdad?
Yes, very safe. 50-50.
50-50, what, like 50% we live, 50% we die?
Yes, that's why we drive through night. It's much safer.
How much safer?
50-50.
Well, this is not exactly from one of my favorite directors out there, Todd Phillips, who is responsible for the Hangover trilogy, and we've talked.
You didn't like the Hangover movies? Okay.
No, the Hangover trilogy I think are awful comedies. But so Todd Phillips, the fact that he made what I consider a thoroughly mediocre film in WARDOGS, I think is probably a step up for him. So
the director's showing improvement in your estimation.
Yeah, he's gone from really awful to just kind of forgettable.
Well, what did you think about this film? Is the film forgettable?
The film is forgettable. It starts off with, it's a really great true story about these two guys who basically were selling arms to the U.S. government, because arms contracts are sort of available through loopholes from back in the Bush era. And this movie sort of sets up this idea, this story that we don't really know about, and then it just kind of falls into the familiar cliches of two guys start a business, and then one gets greedy, and then drugs and ego get in the way, and their friendship and their partnership fall apart, and then we see the consequences of that. There's absolutely nothing new here for people to look at, and it's the movie for people who read like one Facebook post about any kind of subject and think, oh, I got the whole story there. You don't get that whole story here with WARDOGS, and it's very familiar, and it's just not very interesting.
Well, thanks for taking us to the box office.
Thank you.